with the Microsoft Certificate Authority or with an third party. In that case, after installing the NSX Manager, okay, as part of post-deployment activity, you need to import the certificate which is given by a Microsoft Certificate Authority or third party. Okay, now this certificate activity is not uh, mandatory for all the clients. As I told you, it depends on the business of the client and their requirement. So now let's determine the customer requirements. Are self-signed certificates acceptable in NSX production environment? Yes. NSX production environment, self-signed certificates are acceptable if the client is okay with the certificate. Okay. If the client needs a certificate needs to be signed by the external CA or an external vendor. In that case, based on the requirement, we need to go for external CA. Okay. So during that design time itself, they will plan for this certificate spot, whether for all the components, vSphere components, ESXi, vCenter, NSX, ARIA suite components, are we going to use self-signed certificate or we are going to use the external CA, that is the Microsoft. So these certificates will get auto renewed using the certificate authority. So if you want to see where the certificates are located inside the NSX Manager, then you can use these commands. Okay. If you want to check the certificate of your NSX Manager, then you can go to config ncp certs in the NSX Manager, that is inside the command prompt. If you want to say, check certificates related to cluster certificates, anyway, we are going to build a cluster, right? Cluster certificates, you can find config cluster SSL. API sets. Okay, so whichever, from the NSX Manager, if it wants to establish an API related communication with other components, at that point of time, it will use API sets. It will be stored in the config manager SSL. Okay, then about messaging RabbitMQ sets. Okay, what is messaging RabbitMQ means? I will explain during that cluster class. Okay, in cluster class, we are going to discuss about the Carfu, this RabbitMQ. Okay, so those things from the architecture level, we are going to discuss. So we'll discuss during that time. Okay, so as of now, this messaging certs also, it's there in the where VMware messaging SSL. Then some private keys. Okay. So the complete certification of this graphical view, okay, all the certification has been stored here under this folder called config. Inside the config, you can find multiple services certificates. Okay, if you find time, just explore this one by one. You'll get some idea like how it is stored there. For an example, I just explored a single certificate. Okay, so I just went to that config cluster manager and then cluster manager, the public, then you can find certificate .pem. So the certificate starts with some encryption keywords, begin certificate, then end certificate. Okay. Okay, so this is where the certificates are stored. Now the question here is, when I say auto renewal of certificates by NSX Manager, then it should have a certificate authority, right? So the question here is, does NSX have its own certificate authority? Because vCenter has a certificate authority, we know. The same like vCenter, here NSX Manager is also having its own certificate authority. So that is the reason some of the certificate which is related to the microservices are getting renewed automatically. Okay, now the task is like, okay, I'm running with the NSX Manager, which is newly deployed. The client requirement is just replace the NSX certificate with the Microsoft signed certificate. Okay, if that is the scenario, how you are going to replace the certificate on the NSX Manager? Okay, because there are a lot of certificates which needs to be replaced from Microsoft CA, but we are going to start with the NSX Manager first. So when we discuss about the other components, that time we'll sync with the other certificates options. Okay, as of now, we are just going to concentrate only on the NSX Manager individual node certificate and the cluster certificate of NSX Manager. Okay, if that is the case, how we are going to replace the existing self-signed certificate with the Microsoft CA and what are the steps which needs to be followed in production support. Okay, so it's a complex process, but anyway, we'll explore one by one. So first thing is, like we need to create a certificate CSR. Okay, as a certificate authority for other task in our lab. Okay, so here I'm going to create a certificate template for my NSX. Okay. So this NSX Manager is an web server, right? So here you need to select the web server option and then you need to create a duplicate one. Okay, for our NSX. So this is just a template. So just follow that instruction which is given by Microsoft to do that. Okay. Okay, so we just created a template for our NSX in Microsoft. Okay, and this template will be used to prepare the certificate for our NSX manager. Okay, so this one is out of scope for us in production, but how I created this certificate in Microsoft in the lab. So that's the reason I included this in the slide. Okay, we'll move to the next step. Next step is like import CA certificate in. Okay, before that one more is there, right? Okay. Import the certificate in NSX. Okay, so next step is like create CSR and then the private key. Okay, so let's see how to create the CSR. Okay, so this is the CSR template. Okay, so you can this is available in the KP article. Okay, or else you can create the CSR request from the NSX Manager GUI itself. There is an option available to create CSR in this 4.x. Okay, once you create that, it will be it can be opened using a notepad file, and then you have to give the inputs. Okay, by default bits it's okay. So the inputs which you need to give is about the country name, then state, then locality, then organizational name, then common name, and then the DNS name. Okay, these are the inputs which needs to be given by us. So this template by default it will be there. All the inputs which I have given by replacing the VMware inputs. By default, the country name will be US, then state will be something mentioned as Alaska or something, then locality, then organization name will be VMware. Okay, I just replaced everything with the customized option according to our lab. Okay, so this one you need to do for both NSX Manager node level as well as from the cluster level. So this is the template, like for our node level certificate. Okay, just save this as an CSR file.